Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this Servan Spatial webinar today, Developing Safety Through High Performance Culture. As most of you will be aware who regularly attend our webinars, if you have any questions at all for our presenters throughout the webinar, please pop these questions into the Slido box and we will have the presenters answer these questions at the end of their presentation. So now I would like to introduce you to our presenters for today, Cheryl Robinson and Juan Aguilera.
Thank you, Jenny. We have a little intro that we'll play for you, and then we launch into the presentation.
Hello and welcome everyone to our Developing Safety Through High Performance Culture webinar. It is my absolute pleasure to be introducing Cheryl Robinson and Juan Aguilera to you today. It was Cheryl's experience as a health and safety representative for a land development consultancy that motivated her to find ways to effectively engage workers and teams in workplace safety. This began a quest which led to Cheryl graduating from Auckland University in 2019 with a double major in psychology, organizational studies, and employment relations. Cheryl also draws on her 30 plus years of business experience as an employee, team member, contractor, consultant, and business owner. She joins us today with over 700 hours of coaching experience as a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. She now spends her time partnering with individuals and businesses to enhance team performance in the workplace. Juan Aguilera graduated with a Bachelor of Electronic Engineering. After the sale of his first business, he completed an MBA in a prestigious business school in Venezuela, which led to work in venture capital before he moved to Australia, where he worked in business development. Juan then became interested in the expression of human potential, which led him to complete a master's in human resources and coaching from Sydney University. He has been an executive coach since the year 2000, with engagements in manufacturing, consumer goods, banking, consulting, and finance sectors. Juan has been working in leadership development for over 15 years and has specialized in assisting senior leaders with their transition into new roles. Over the years, Juan has worked on many culture change programs with demonstrated improvements in productivity and performance. Lately, he's been working with teams in a team coach capacity, helping the formation of high-performance teams. Cheryl and Juan have teamed up, bringing their extensive expertise in organizational culture and safety to help create safer workplaces in New Zealand. So please, get ready to learn something new. Feel inspired and have your questions answered as you learn about how to develop safety through high-performance culture. Please join me in welcoming the high performance culture specialists, Cheryl Robinson and Juan Aguilera.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was a friend of ours doing that thing. So just to maximize engagement in this session today, let's start by pondering on this question. In your work life, have you ever felt disengaged in the workplace? Have you ever worked with someone you don't trust? Have you ever felt not safe to speak out and raise your concern? Here are some headlines from the Herald in the last just few months. So, are we in an epidemic of work-related accidents? What are we up to against? Cheryl and I will present some of our findings. Take it away, Cheryl.
So, workplace accidents seem to be a common occurrence nearly every day in workplaces in New Zealand. There are lots of safety fatalities in construction. And so these are external kind of market forces that are at play here. So according to Gallup, in the State of the Global Workplace Report, which was published in 2017, 85% of employees are either not engaged or are actively disengaged at work. 85%, that's really high. So this has economic consequences and equates to approximately $7 trillion in lost productivity worldwide. Back in New Zealand, we have the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, and it puts responsibility, and I know that you're all aware of this, that the business and undertakings must have worker engagement and participation practices, regardless of their size, level of risk, or the type of work they carry out. In September 21, Forbes magazine reported on a new study which showed that 83% of employees said that they trust their HR department. However, 2/3 said they had neglected to report something to HR because they didn't think HR was going to do anything about it or fix the issue. And as well as that, there's 49% who have neglected to report something critical, citing fear of retaliation in the workplace. In New Zealand, since January 21, now this figure astounds me, it was reported just recently in the news that at least 2 workers have died in construction every month, and just over 1 worker per day has been seriously injured. This is really serious. That's a lot of workers in New Zealand in the construction industry really affected by safety. And the chief executive of WorkSafe said that this will, failure to meet legal requirements from businesses will result in swift enforcement. We need workers to help to hold poor health and safety practice to account. And he added, including by speaking up if you feel safe to do so. And there is sentencing happening in New Zealand. Again, you'll be aware of this. The maximum penalty charges can be up to $1.5 million, as we can see in the sentencing here. So Juan's going to give us a metaphor to explain where we are in New Zealand in terms of health and safety.
One of the hardest concepts to grasp about safety culture is also one of the simplest. How does organizational culture apply to safety performance? So there is a variety of metaphors that we can use to convey this. But when we talk about health and safety, we think about safety audits, incident investigation, policies and procedure, safety training, long unreadable manuals that nobody actually uses. So if you think safety as a stew, these elements are the elements of, these are kind of the vegetable of health and safety. And these are the vegetables of the stew. Now, in a knowledge-based organization like the ones you probably, the ones that you belong, you can say there are professional services, expertise, state-of-the-art technology, highly trained individuals. So these are, I will say, is the equivalent of the meat of the stew. Now, culture is the broth in which they simmer. If you have a rancid broth, you won't have a good stew. Even if you keep adding the most expensive ingredient, like what? It's like a toxic organizational culture. Your safety program won't have the impact that you want to have. So what is required is an integrated solution. It's a two-factor theory on injury prevention. You need to have excellent safety program, the meat and the vegetable and all of the analogy of the stew, but you also have to have a strong, healthy organizational culture as well. Both are needed to achieve a world-class safety performance. What is needed is just an integrated solution. So Sherry will
So
share.
I'd like to share a personal story with you. And I want you to think during this story about what this stone represents. I have this stone on my dresser at home. It was given to me. You'll see as we go. So I just want you to begin by imagining a workplace. There's approximately 80 land development specialists, and they're all sitting in a large workroom with their double monitors and their computers. They include surveyors, engineers, planners. They make up a hard working team. They're knowledge workers. They're skilled at what they do. They have pride in their reputation. The company invests in technology. It invests in getting really good workers and providing training and support and health and safety support. And in this workplace, there's a little bit of a buzz happening. The crew, the field crew, are just going out on site. So they've been given their instructions, they've done their pre-site checks, they've collected their gear, and they're heading out for the day. And as they head out, the office workers settle into what they are doing in the office during the day. I'm there. I'm generating a Land Online data set ready for submission with LINZ. And I really love this work. I love being part of a team. I feel pride in what we do in this workplace with all these people collaborating together. It's really a great team. And as part of what I do, I'm a health and safety representative. So I have been collaborating with the field crew. We had a very cumbersome field document that they were meant to fill in as part of their site safety requirements. And one of them came to me and said, look, this is just too big. We're not doing it. Like, the question was asked, why aren't you guys filling this in? So we've been working together and got it down from a great big document into a little A5 sheet that's easier for them to use. And they're testing this today. So I'm quite excited about it and really keen for the feedback on how it goes. And I'm off to my health and safety meeting. So off I go, and I meet in a room with another, a smaller group. So there's about 5 of us in this team, in the health and safety team. And we discuss any issues that have arisen in the past month. So we're in this meeting. And what surprises me is that one of the senior leaders in this meeting is pretty upset this day. He is so frustrated. He's had a report back from site saying that one of the field staff hadn't been following the protocol and there'd been a complaint. So he was pretty frustrated. And the question comes up, like, what are we going to do about this? Why aren't people following the protocols that we've got in place? So I say, well, maybe if we provided some incentive for the staff, maybe if we sort of made this a great thing to do somehow, they got some recognition for it. And this leader turned on me. He said, what do you expect me to do? Do you want me to wipe their bottoms? Well, I can't believe it. I sat there in silence. This caused an enormous amount of tension in me. I felt just like this string. And it reminded me of that stone. Like, I felt like my idea, I might have well have said it to a stone. Like it just left me feeling disengaged, you might say. So what to do with this? Well, I sat quietly in the meeting. I didn't offer anything more that day. And in fact, I was a little more cautious in these meetings from then on about what I did say. But I'm not the kind of person that's going to let this get me down. So I made a decision and I took action. What I did was I embarked on a journey to find out, what is it that makes people disengage? Why wasn't this worker following this protocol this day? And what was it that I was feeling right now? And why was I feeling it? And how was I going to re-engage in these health and safety meetings? So I went off made the decision, took action, went off to university and started studying psychology and employment relations. I wanted to answer this question. Then I embarked on some consultancy work, talking with workers, and as well as that coaching in the quest to answer this question. And it led me to the framework which Juan and I are going to present with you today. And if you're the kind of person who's got one of these teams where there's a whole lot of great skilled knowledge workers, where people need to collaborate, where you've got a great team and you're really wanting to take this team to the next level of high performance, well, keep listening, because we're going to share with you our discoveries about how you can build this team, create this stew that's got these extra components to it. Thanks, Juan.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for that story, which provides some context and shed light into some of the dynamics that we have at play in the workplace. So the framework that we have for the high performance team have 4 key ingredients. The first is team engagement. The next one is team trust. The next one is team safety. And the last is team coaching. Cheryl will take a dive into the first ingredient, team engagement.
So engagement, as we've already talked about, is a really important part, especially of the safety aspect at work. And engagement is the involvement with and the enthusiasm for work, as defined by Gallup. So it's involvement and enthusiasm, but it's not only that, it's also discretionary effort. So it's where people put the extra bit into what they do. Now you might ask, why is engagement important? Well, it increases some things and decreases others. Things that increase, so there's a growing body of evidence that indicates that higher levels of employee engagement can result in improvements in these things. Recruitment, customer advocacy. So that means that the workers put the customers first. Productivity, performance, profitability, creativity, and innovation. And I'm sure you'll agree with me, these are all things that we want in these high-performing teams in our workplaces where we've got these great skills and attributes in our workers. Now, the things that it decreases, so higher levels of employment and employee engagement can result in decreases in levels of sickness and absenteeism, employee turnover, and accidents. All great outcomes from engagement. So you might ask, why is engagement relevant to me? So not only does team engagement benefit the business, but the workers benefit as well. So they have an improved sense of well-being at work. So how do we go about getting this worker engagement, you might ask? So what it requires is clear, candid communication. It's not a magic pill, but creating a space where people are free to speak is really important. So you can alter systems and structures and processes. Another way of creating this, of how to do this, is to change organizational norms and attitudes. And this starts with encouraging and reinforcing employees speaking up about, especially about hazards, but about other concerns also. Now, what if engagement is not present? What if workers are disengaged? Well, disengagement can be like a virus. If it's not contained, it can spread through the organisation. So if you think back to my story, so there was one disengaged worker that didn't follow procedure. That led to a frustrated boss. And that led to another disengaged worker. And this is exactly how the virus spreads within the organisation. Now, Han will introduce you to the next ingredient of a high-performing team.
Thanks, Cheryl. I think that we had enough of viruses for the last 2 years, so we need to probably look into focus on high-performance team and what do we do next. So the next one is team trust. So here is a definition for trust. It's a firm belief in the reliability, trust, ability, or strength of someone or something. However, trust is a complex. It's a more comprehensive. Here's another more comprehensive model of trust. Is an abstract, multidimensional concept. We can look from the perspective of decision making or from the situational or relational. Now, from the decision making perspective, in a higher trust environment, there is more risk tolerance. But what it means is that there are present better conditions for innovation. However, from the relationship factor, there is higher trust environment, diminish the situational risk, leading to lower accidents in the workplace. Now, this is a concept that requires a deeper dive, but even though it's an abstract, multidimensional concept, we can have a go at a better understanding at a personal level, and actually that it could lead us to improve our relationship. So let's do a little exercise. If you have in front of you, grab a pen and a piece of paper, and you can divide the paper in 2 columns. So in the first column, think of a high trust relationship that you have. Who is it with? I just need to put my timer here, just and write the initial of the person. Now describe what does this person do to build trust? And I'll give you 30 seconds. It's a brief exercise.
Have you got an image of that, Kwa?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Now, in the second column, think of a low trust relationship you have. Who is it with? Just write the initial on the top and describe what this person does to lower your level of trust. I'll give you 30 seconds as well. Now, if you look at this piece of paper in front of you, what is your key takeaway from the 2 columns? More importantly, what is the one thing that you can make a decision, take action to improve your own personal relationship? I'll give you 30 seconds as well. I know this exercise requires way more time, And this is the type of work that we do to help create high-performance team. And so Cheryl will talk about the next ingredient in this stew.
So the fourth ingredient in a high-performance team is team safety. Now, team safety includes both physical safety, but also psychological safety. Both are closely associated. Now, this term psychological safety, what does that mean? Well, it's broadly defined as a climate in which people are comfortable expressing and being themselves. So to have a better understanding of team psychological safety on a personal level, here are some talk starter questions. So have you or someone you know, I just want you to think about the answers to these as we go through them. Have you or someone you know ever been ridiculed in front of your team member, or held back from asking a question to avoid looking stupid, or been negatively labelled in any way? Have you or someone you know ever been given a hard time for making an unintended error? Have you or someone you know ever felt like you're not part of the team, or had your input dismissed or ridiculed? When we asked this question with another audience, we did a word cloud, and this is what came through. So you can see a lot of people felt uncomfortable and afraid, and there's a lot of other words there that we really resonate with in answer to these questions. So when we think about the opposite to this and creating an environment where we do feel safe and a team that works well together, is it about finding the right balance of age, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or leaders and followers? Is this what makes a good team? Well, Google wanted to know the answer to this question too. So they wanted to know what factors predict team success. So several years ago, they did a study that they called Project Aristotle, and the findings were published in 2016. They set to find out what are the things that predict team success. Because up until then, the wisdom had been just those things that we had before. It was about finding the right balance of age and gender, leaders and followers, so that the puzzle pieces all fit together to make a successful team. But what Google discovered from their research was that this is not how it works. They found that there's 5 key dynamics of team effectiveness that were identified. But what they found was that psychological safety was more predictive of team success than all of the other factors put together. The other behaviours were important. So other things like setting goals and reinforcing mutual accountability, they were all important. But unless the team members felt psychologically safe, the other behaviours were insufficient. They alone didn't predict team success. So, what is the definition of psychological safety? Now, Amy Edmondson's a researcher that's done a lot of research into this, and she defines it as a belief that one would not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. Now, this really resonated with me after my experience with the stone and the health and safety meeting. So I was really excited to discover this. This is the secret sauce for the broth in the stew. It's the key ingredient that makes a high-performing team. So let's look into a little bit deeper into psychological safety and a bit more about it and what it is. We'll start with a history of it. So Amy Edmondson, that I've already mentioned, she is an organizational behavioral scientist and works for the Harvard Business School. And she began this study back in the 1990s. She was curious about teamwork and what made good teamwork. And she studied in hospitals because they were a high-risk environment. So the repercussions of a team not working well together were quite dramatic in the hospital. So she thought this would be an effective place to study it. So they did a lot of investigation onto what made good teams, what were effective, and the errors. So going into this study, Edmondson hypothesized that the most effective teams would make the fewest errors. And this was exactly what they discovered in terms of the correlation. She was right onto it in terms of the correlation between error and team effectiveness. But what she did not expect was the direction of the correlation was exactly the opposite to what had been predicted. So they couldn't make sense of the data for a while. They found that better teams made more mistakes, not fewer mistakes. Now, this was very perplexing. Why wasn't this data making sense? Why did good teamwork lead to more errors? Well, they had to go back into the situation and look again at the evidence that they'd come up with and revisit all of this. And what they found was that it wasn't just that they made more mistakes, it was that they reported more mistakes. And this reporting and collaboration led to fewer serious mistakes. So this is how the understanding of psychological safety was born. The teams that were effective openly talked about the risk of errors. They looked for new ways to catch and prevent them. This is what team psychological safety is. People are able to speak up, say, I don't understand, I'm not sure about this. What if this happens? Or they might question in a medical environment, they might say, did you mean to give that medication? Is that the right dosage? Whereas when psychological safety wasn't present, they wouldn't ask those questions and more serious results and errors would occur. So here are some ideas to start the journey to psychological safety in the workplace. This is the how of how to create psychological safety. Some of the things you can do as a leader or as a worker. So you can frame the work as a learning problem, not an execution problem. You can acknowledge your own fallibility. You can model curiosity and ask lots of questions, or solicit input and opinions from the group. Share information about personal and work style preferences and encourage others to do the same. And these findings of the how all arose from what Amy Edmondson found present in these highly effective teams that were functioning well together. She's gone on to study this for 20 years and the evidence is getting stronger and stronger. So you might have some questions about this. So what if psychological safety is just the latest buzzword? Is it another talk fest? What if it's hard to measure, or it's a waste of resources, or it takes too much time? These are some of the questions that, are the elephant in the room. Is this soft stuff really worth the money and investment? Well, like I just mentioned, there is very strong empirical evidence that psychological safety underpins really effective team performance. It's now used as a strategy to promote learning, innovation, and employee engagement because it also helps us creativity and innovation. And I know that in land development environment, that's exactly what you're wanting. that safe environment allows people to take risks to not only prevent accidents, but improve the outcomes for their clients and in their working environment.
Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing with us this concept of psychological safety and its importance. So, is there a system for creating a high-performance team? We already mentioned the 3 ingredients in a high-performance team. Let's talk about the 4th ingredient, which is team coaching. A way to define team coaching is around different methodologies that we are familiar with. For example, team building. So, in a team building example, usually a team building example is an event, is a weekend away, is a rafting experience. So, and there are fewer. A team coaching experience is a longer process and usually throughout a month. The purpose of a team building is to improve collaborative behaviors, but in the team coaching it's about the effectiveness of the task while improving the collaborative behaviors. The focus is primarily internal about the team. In the team coaching is both the internal but also external. A methodology to use team building could be an unrelated work activity like climbing a wall or something like that. But in a team coaching environment, it's about action learning. It's about doing the work that needs to be done and learning through that process. So if we think about the focus, one is the directed dialogue, and in the team building, in the team coaching, is a learning and open dialogue about how do we do things better. Another methodology that is very common is facilitation. So facilitation is the focus mostly is about solving a specific problem. But in the team coaching environment is about building capability for the team to solve its own problem. So, and in the case of facilitation, it places greater emphasis on the process, but in the team coaching environment, it focuses on generating questions that produce insight. So here is a definition of team coaching. It is partnering with an entire team in an ongoing relationship for the purpose of collectively raising awareness and building better connections in a team internal and external system, as well as enhancing capability to cope the current and future challenges. I think that the important thing here is the future challenges, because one thing is we are in a constant changing environment, and we want to build capability not only for what the challenge that we're having today, but also for the future challenges. It also, by the way, there are two. These definitions are for David Clutterbuck. This is one of the thought leaders in team coaching. So it helps improve performance and the processes by which performance is achieved. So you not only look at the performance, but what is helping and assisting the process of achieving and increasing performance. And this is done through reflection and dialogue. Now, however, team coaching is not a panacea and is not for every team. We see team coaching as an embarking in a journey of discovery to create a high-performance team. However, not everybody is ready or willing to embark in the process. So the first step of the journey is in this initial exploration is a call where we assess the team readiness and the coach-client chemistry. The second step is the discovery process, where we look into trust and psychological safety, as well as other important aspects of the team. And the next one will be creating the platform to launch the process of team coaching. So if your team is wanted to have a look into this possibility of taking to the next level of performance, here are Cheryl and myself contact details for in case that's what you're you want to explore this possibility. So now we're going to open the room for Q&A.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, it's Suzanne Spatial here. There don't appear to have been any questions that have come through. So for those of our members who are online listening to this presentation, please, if you do have any questions, can you pop them into the Slido box, and we will have Cheryl and Juan answer those for you. So we'll just give you a minute to type in any questions that you may have. Right. Well, it doesn't appear that we do have any questions coming through from the audience. So if you are listening into this webinar today and you have a question later on, please flick that through to us at Surveillance Spatial, and we will forward it on to our presenters for you, who will provide an answer. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you both, Juan and Cheryl, for your time and your presentation today. And actually, sorry guys, it looks like one question has just come through.
Thank you.
Right, so guys, I'll just read this question. Scott here, great to have everyone engaged and offer input. When you cannot satisfy everyone's opinions, when do too many cooks spoil the broth?
Great analogy, great question. So I think that the broth is the environment where questions can be asked. Now, one thing is that having too many cooks, yes, are we? So the broth means, am I free to ask questions and to challenge the system and to challenge what is being presented? What is the environment that is creating the opportunity? Sometimes decisions need to be made, and maybe it's about the process of how decisions are made. So maybe it's having a consultative initial period, and then decision is made by the leaders or the team or whoever the process. But that's part of the journey, is to decide what is the process that led us to cook the broth. And in that cooking of the broth, there is a consultation period where opinions are invited.
And I think one of the real strengths of having an environment where there are a lot of opinions, I get what you're saying, that sometimes a lot of opinions can mean that it's kind of confusing to work out what's most important. However, the real strength of this is that people bring their ideas and they collaborate, and they're not afraid to say, they welcome each other's ideas and say, that's a great idea, have you thought about this? So actually it allows people to kind of collaborate in a new way by expressing their ideas and then making other suggestions. And when people have this place where they feel safe, it's not threatening to have a whole lot of ideas, because what they do is they pull them together and come to a solution which enables them to feel that they've been heard as part of that solution, rather than it just being autocratic. I hope that makes sense.
And I wanted to add something important from the Cheryl presentation and Amy Edmondson experience. In a work safety space, I think it's better to raise the hand and not raise the hand. If I feel safe to challenge, this is not safe, or in the case of Amy Edmondson, reporting the errors that can lead to fixing the problems and not having further errors down the road.
Great, thanks, guys. There don't appear to be any other questions that have come through. So once again, thank you so much for your presentation and your time today. And once again, thank you to our members who have joined today's webinar. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jenny. And thank you,
Thanks so
everyone.
much.